Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. What if I told you that the most powerful thing you can do for your brand in 2026 isn't about picking the perfect color palette or crafting the catchiest tagline? What if it's actually about getting crystal clear on who you are, what you stand for, and having the courage to say it out loud, even when it's uncomfortable? Today's conversation is one that has honestly been years in the making. I'm sitting down with the incredibly talented Michelle Wintersteen, a brand designer who's redefining what it means to build a brand with purpose and intention. And let me tell you, this episode goes deep and is very relevant for the times that we're in. We're talking about the intersection of thought leadership and aesthetic, and why your visual identity should be just as bold as your beliefs. Michelle shares her framework for self-loyalty, not just self-care, and why understanding what you stand for makes you unshakable when others challenge you. We dive into the real messy parts of building a business that is values-driven, how to find aligned clients before you're too far down the road, why retention is so much more valuable than recruitment, and why Michelle pins her company values to the top of her social media, even when it might cost her new projects. But here's where it gets really interesting. Michelle and I explore what's coming in the next wave of entrepreneurship. With over 1 million people that were laid off in 2025, we believe that we're about to see a shift, a rise in entrepreneurship, similar to the pandemic, but not in a reactive way. This time, people are making proactive choices about their autonomy, their purpose, and their future. If you've ever felt small in the face of big world events, if you've wondered whether your creative work actually matters, or if you're feeling that pull to finally step into your thought leadership, this conversation is for you. So grab your drink of choice, settle in, and get ready for a conversation about branding, belonging, and building something truly brag-worthy. This conversation today, I feel, has been years in the making. I'm so excited to welcome our guest today, Michelle Wintersteen. She is an incredible brand designer. I've had the pleasure of being on her podcast in the past, and we just are so aligned when it comes to using our brands for advocacy and just so many similarities in the creative space. And I'm so excited to bring her wisdom to the show today. So, Michelle, what story and message are you looking to tell through your brilliance and your wisdom today?
The loftiest question ever, right? It's like, is it for my whole life? Is it for today? Is it for this year? Is it for next year? But I think I'm going to go down the path of following my own curiosity, which is the intersection of thought leadership and aesthetic. Like, how can what you say and who you're talking to and the way that you say it be connected to the way that you present yourself visually. And I'm not just talking like fashion or beauty, because that's the facade version of that, but talking about how to link all those things together, not only for like professional development, but for personal development and making your mark and becoming that category of one. I think that's a really interesting topic right now.
That's amazing. So, when you're talking about the connection between branding to thought leadership through your lens, how deep do you think that goes? Because I love actually how you talked about the personal growth aspect of that, because I've always looked at PR in a way as personal growth, because as a thought leader, you go from having a concept of your story or an experience of your story that you're looking to amplify and activate because you know the impact that it can make in someone else's life. But if you've never been visible before, you have limiting beliefs and your confidence challenged. And thought leadership and using PR as the activator for that is a way to build that confidence. And I feel that branding is very similar to that.
Well, it's so similar in that I think I would look at the world we live in, right? I think we're fascinated by founder-led brands. I think we are fascinated by politics. I think we're fascinated by athletes. I think these are all kind of cults of personality in a sense, right? So there is a very distinct set of visual signifiers that can help that stay sticky. And not even just, again, not just from a purely capitalist standpoint, but look at politics, for example. Like politics is branding. There's a message, there's a messenger, and there's an audience, and we have to carry that message to the audience effectively. And I think the politicians that do it right have really strong visual language. They're just very dexterous in their visuals, and I think we can learn from that. And I think we can learn from that and apply it to how we move about the world, but also like where your opportunities are, and being so tuned into who you are, what you care about, how you think the way that you think. I had a great podcast episode last week where we talked about the concept of like self loyalty, which I think is so much of a better descriptor than self care, because care is one part of it, but loyalty is about like really truly knowing what you stand for. And then you're therefore not really threatened about other people feeling strongly about what they stand for, because you can stay curious, because you could always come back to your own like self loyalty. So when I'm working with our clients and we're working on the brand design part of it, I'm always bringing that into the conversation. I'm always saying, like, how can we make sure that you're in the relationship with the business, but you are not the business and the business is not you. So what is this extra supporting character looking like that's going to help feed that and keep those two things alive?
If you're open to sharing, what is some of that ideation process that you work on with clients to bring that to the forefront? Because I can only just assume that there is a personal component that you filter into the relationship that you have with your clients in order to know their mind, body, soul as to why they're doing the work they do in the first place, right? So, how do
Right.
you ideate that in a way to bring that energy to the design and how the audience, the viewers, the people on the outside are able to pick up on those components that connects the people who are leading the brand into everything that is published with the brand moving forward?
A great example of this was a brand that we worked on really closely this summer, which was Gallivant Society. So Gallivant Society is a women's travel group, and they host luxury trips all around the world for 10 to 15 women on every trip. And it started out of Allie's personal curiosity. Her mom was a travel agent. She has television background, so she could produce really great content. And then she started going on these trips, and people were like, "Oh my gosh, I want to go on a trip with you. You look like you're so much fun to be with." Ding, ding, ding. That was the first thing. It's like fun, over the top, luxurious, but not snooty. There's an approachability, there's like a warmth to it. And that's very much hinged on Allie's personality. So when she came to us for the rebrand, I was like, okay, we need to find what are those qualities about you that make you someone that people want to travel with, and how do we transpose those now to the business? So it was about having a fully fleshed out color palette and lots of different design systems, and creating a silk scarf for every single trip, because then that became part of the storytelling. But now my work with her is, how do we then now separate the two? How do we make it so that the brand, although inspired by you and inspired by your aesthetic and inspired by what you do well, can become its own thing where you are again, you're the director, you're the conductor, but it's not the only thing that you do. So it's a lot about building her partnerships, building her thought leaderships, and making the brand so much that if someone were to go on a trip and she wasn't the host, it would be okay because those qualities would remain. Like that we've now created a standard operating procedure, we've created core values, we've created standards that allow it that whoever she hires under this idea, under this brand umbrella, that those become the secret sauce and it doesn't necessarily need to be delivered via her to then free her up to do other things.
That's the ripple effect, right? When you have the foundation that is so clear, like you said, it doesn't matter who comes in to help carry it forward. The foundation's there, and every little piece is going to ripple effect out because you've have that clarity, that
Mhm.
clear identity. It's
Mhm.
amazing. I have to say, I will fangirl over all of your client work, and I do fangirl all over your client work because it's just so good. You even talked about the silk scarves that you created. Those were hand designed by you and your
Mhm.
team before
Mhm.
printed on those pieces. That's actually where I would love to segue because, again, branding is so much more than what we just see as a logo, as a website, as graphics on social media. What you
Mhm.
do with your clients is so innovative because even their products, even if they aren't a product based business, there's branded products that you help create and curate for your clients in order to carry that brand forward. So the silk scarves with this client, what are some of the other branding elements that you've brought into your partnerships?
So a lot of it has to do with you have to know the audience first. So you have to know that again, when you start off, especially as a solo brand or an independent brand or just like a person trying to grow community, right? People will be attracted to you. Your first followers will be your friends and family and their friends and family. That's your audience. That doesn't necessarily stay your audience. Like that grows and evolves as your business grows and evolves. And you start working with people that were truly strangers to you, but then were referred by someone maybe that you don't even know, which has happened to me plenty of times. But a lot of what I talk to clients about is building something that is proprietary and building something that helps differentiate themselves from everything else on the market. So, another example of this would be a brand that we work with called Dental Hygiene Nation, and they are a dental hygiene apparel brand, which sounds so incredibly niche. But what Caitlin did so geniusly was create a subscription box program for her audience. So by her having this whole branch to the business that allows her to do the subscription box, it's not only positioning her as a different entity from what kind of Etsy resellers or like independent shops and things like that, but she's building a brand that people want to belong to, which is huge. And then she uses the subscription box to get sponsors to give different pieces, samples, things like this into the box. So she has like multiple revenue arms off of the one offer that also serves the audience. So that's one kind of just from the jump, which I think is so she was doing that long before she was working with us. Our team now manages all of that. And we're always pushing to get her as the thought leader in that category. Like, how can Dental Hygiene Nation make the coolest, best stuff every single time? So we did like a Taylor Swift drop on the same day of the album because our team studies aesthetics. And so we're going to do the deep dive and try to guess what the thing is going to look like and get it out there in time. Other clients that we work really closely with, it's about just again connecting the audience to the offer and really thinking about what are the things that they can take away from the experience that doesn't feel like junk, that doesn't feel like promotion, that doesn't feel overdone. Like the real estate group we work with, they do an apple picking event every year, and so we have a canvas tote that says thanks for picking us, and the logo is like subtle because it's not meant to be an advert. It's meant to be like they practically need a canvas tote to put their apples in. I like that kind of stuff because I hate just getting things that feel, I don't know, like weirdly promotional. I like lifestyle items. So that's but maybe that's my own preference. I don't know.
I'm right there with you. The only things that end up in my space are from brands that I feel passionate about what they're doing, or if I also feel connected to the leaders that are behind the brand and what they're doing and what they stand for.
Exactly. And I think one of the reasons we're so interested in brands in that way now, that's changed even since I started my business, is that we don't share as much of a monoculture anymore. Like the only things that people really share in a timely way are like sports and politics. Those are the last two live forms of media, because everything else, everyone is segmented into their own algorithms. Social media, streaming platforms, YouTube, what podcasts you listen to, what books you read, what movies you see, right? So it's very rare that people have like a chance to talk about things that they have in common. That being said, the brand has come in and replaced that and said, when you wear this type of brand, it's telling someone else what to think of you in a way. It's saying, I'm aligning myself with this brewery, with this athletic company, right? I'm an Encinitas. Everyone wears Vuori. I have not touched my Lululemon in years. There's a reason for that, because it's a signifier that says, I belong to this cult. You know what I mean? There's some belonging in that. And when I'm out walking my dog on the rail trail, everyone's in head to toe the same. And it's our subconscious way of telling ourselves and telling other people that we belong, and telling other people that they belong with us, because, oh, we're in the same leggings.
I'm actually glad that you brought up the belonging because with branding and the work that you do, you're building community. And like you said, you're building a community where people feel like they belong. They feel safe because there's similar thought process, similar mindset, what you represent, what you care about. That's what creates that community of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And when done effectively, I mean, that is carried over into our personal lives more than we even imagine. Like
Mm-hmm.
community, of course, in the business sense, sure. There's so many organizations that build those communities, but how you're supported in those communities gives you tools and resources and beliefs that you carry over that impact
Absolutely.
your family and your friends and your loved ones. It's so connected. Each one balances and feeds one another. Again, to try to think of a good question that I want to ask you to dig on that further, what is your representation of community through branding and how do you curate that in such a way for your clients, but then even for yourself? You do such an incredible way of building a community under your brand and sharing specifically what you represent and what you care about in a way that is so real and vulnerable, but is magnetic to the people who are like, yes, I am right there with you. And you
Mm-hmm.
teach them and help them build the confidence to want to also share publicly or share confidently what they represent and what they believe in.
Okay, there's so many entry points to go from here, because I've been having this conversation so much recently. We just had, at the time of recording this, we just had our team wrap up end of the year audit of what we think we did well and what we want to double down on and what we want to improve. And I think coming off a year like 2025, there's so many times where I felt so defeated this year about what was going on. And I saw how much our clients have been affected by tariffs, by foreign policy, by immigration. There's so many times when I just felt so incredibly small and so incredibly like, what is the point of what I'm doing? And should I be doing something else? And so I kind of channel that back into, how can I create community? Sounds so like, where? Like, community is such an overused, co-opted word by corporations. Like, we build communities. Yuck, gross. Because they don't. Because to create community, it's like the whole idea of everyone wants a village, no one wants to be a villager. That's the first thought I want to go off of. The second one is that in order to build effective community, people have to feel seen, they have to feel heard, and they have to feel valued. And I think we're doing the seen part, but we're not really doing heard and we're not doing valued. And so the way that I've been able to, through the support of my team, and I'll acknowledge through my own privilege, through my privilege of being surrounded with people that feel very similarly to the way that I do, and from the privilege of being with a family that's also very fed up with the way that things are going politically in this country, is I've been able to be very loud and proud about my values, because it has not affected my bottom line. It hasn't. Have we lost projects about it? Absolutely. Were those projects not a fit for us anyway? Definitely not. So I think since January, we've had our values pinned to the top of our page of like, we believe, and if this is going to be a problem for you, please do not pass go and do not collect $200. We're not going to work together, period. And we're definitely not going to work together well if we can't agree that people need to be treated with dignity and respect. And also, my company is more than just me, it's also my team. And so anytime I make anything in this kind of vein, as post-wise, as speaking on behalf of the company, it goes to my team first. I say, hey guys, this is what I'm planning to post. Please let me know if you have any reservations, hesitations, if this doesn't feel like it's aligned to you. And I wait to get that green light because it's not a dictatorship over here, even though my name is on the door. I'm very aware of me representing them also. So there's a lot in the water, but I think the values thing, I would so much sooner work with someone who's 100% aligned than to get down the road with somebody for them to quote unquote find out that I feel differently. That has to be part of it now.
I don't know if you have an answer to this question, but what do you feel someone can do in order to have the conversation to see if you align before getting further on down the road? And you're just like, what could I have done to maybe find this out sooner rather than later? And sometimes timing is everything. I'll just say that sometimes timing is everything. And you really have to have touching points with people in order to really understand where you are aligned and maybe where you're not aligned. And that just always doesn't come from an initial conversation.
I think the first thing is being loud and proud about it. Like I said, it's pinned, it's the very first pinned post on our social pages, and it will stay that way. That's definitely the first thing. The second thing, doubling down on it in your website, doubling down on it and how you show up, how you present yourself, the type of guests that you have on your podcast. Are they diverse? If you believe in diversity, do you have diverse guests? You know what I mean? That's a very important topic for me. Are you celebrating different nonprofits? Are you doing the work to unlearn your own biases? There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but I think on the client facing front, to ensure alignment, it's just taking their temperature on stuff. Like when crazy things happen in the world, which there were a lot this year, like it's saying, hey, we're going to pause your campaign because there's literally something tragically terrible happening in this country. And it's having those conversations candidly and upfront because those are our values. Again, that comes back to the self-loyalty thing of we don't feel it's appropriate to be slinging your sale right now when there's a discourse happening online. It's just not appropriate. And so we're going to protect ourselves, but we're also going to protect your brand. So that's one thing. I've definitely had client relationships where it started off fine and then it started slipping really quick. And that's where I'm really grateful to have a great contract because I can go back to the contract where I have termination clause that says I can terminate with warning and give you a 30-day warning. Say, hey, listen, we're at this point where we're not going to work well together anymore. If you'd like more information on why, I'm happy to elaborate. And it's also saying we don't think we're the best fit for what you need because you need to work with someone that is aligned with you in your views. And it's just not going to be us because there's been dishonesty or because you've been wanting to mislead people, which has happened with clients we've worked with before. They just wanted to straight up lie. And I was like, I just am not going to put my name on that one. That's going to be a no for me. I've definitely said on projects or proposals that didn't come to fruition is I say it's unfortunate that your team won't be able to access our talent. And reframing it for them is you think you're rejecting me, but I'm telling you right now, it's unfortunate that you're not going to have access to us because of the decisions that you've made. And it's definitely hard. It's chewy, it's uncomfortable. And it just reminds me how many clients we have that are such a good fit. And I think that's what makes it fun. So you stay in the game because you like some of the players. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's definitely not an easy thing to do.
Sometimes it takes having to navigate those experiences, as uncomfortable as they are, in order to even have a deeper appreciation for either the clients that are fully aligned and you have such a synchronistic relationship, or you're excited about attracting even more clients because you are saying no to ones that don't feel aligned. And at the end of the day, this is actually one of the conversations that I'm hoping to bring to the podcast more in 2026, which is when it comes to like communication and saying yes or no, sometimes it doesn't always need to be emotionally charged. Sometimes you
Yes.
can just really wish people the best and being like, hey, there's no malice here. There's no negativity. There's just a different lens that I'm looking through right now and the projects that I want to carry moving forward. And it's like, well, maybe now is just not the time. Maybe you can circle back in a couple of years when things have shifted, if it's always meant to come back. But I think sometimes when people are like, I have to say no, or this isn't a good fit, there's like a fear of what is going to be communicated back. But your approach is everything. And if you're really
Mhm.
just leading from the heart and just the vulnerability, being like, it's hard to see it working out right now, maybe we can come back later. Sometimes it's as simple as just being honest.
Yes.
Being honest.
Being
Honesty is
honest.
big.
And the biggest thing I think I ever learned in business, especially just as an online entrepreneur, is retention is so much more valuable and is so much less expensive than recruitment. And what I mean by that is like keeping the clients that you do have and you do like happy is such an easier way to run your business than always trying to find new people, especially once you've established that trust, especially once you've shown that you have aligned values. I've been able to work with clients now on retainer for 3, 4, 5 years because I met them where they're at. And I said, listen, I really like working with you. I'm going to do the best that I can to pull together a proposal that works for your budget, that works for your terms, so that this relationship can stay ongoing because I believe in what you're doing. And I think we work well together. And that just, again, fluidity and flexibility has served me so well over time because guess what? I was right. Like they ended up doing better. Like one of our real estate group is now the top producer in the entire state. So I was able to zoom out a little bit and believe in the greater vision here. And it just comes down to being in the people's business. Everyone's in the business of people. Everyone's in the business of people helping people. So when you can be a person about it and not be a stickler, it's not an argument in my book. You got to create an impact and prove your ROI, and then you can have that conversation. But I think keeping the people that are in your universe seen, heard, and valued is everything.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I want to dive deeper because I don't think we've really touched upon this, but if you want to do like a formal introduction into MKW
Sure.
Creative, but I also think talking about the industries that you work in would be very insightful because we talked a little bit about some of the industries. So, real estate, travel, lifestyle. But I have seen you work with such a wide range of industries and brands, which I think is fantastic because it goes into this deep belief that I've always had that you don't always need to niche if you are crystal clear in what you're offering to clients or offering to a brand. That is really the selling point. But I think it would just be fun if you shared a little bit about your industries because they
Yeah,
are so fun.
they are. I think it's interesting because everyone talks about niche as industry specific, when really our niche is our style, I think. So that gives us more flexibility on industry. So it's like saying I'm a hairstylist and I only do teen girls from age 15 to 19. Yes, that can absolutely be a niche. Or you can just say, I do blonde hair. I don't care if you're 85. I don't care if you're 14. I do blonde. Do you know what I mean? So it's just that subtle shift. And I think once we realize that our visual style, which is bold, punchy, colorful, sassy, like pretty loud and out there, don't come to me with neutral branding. Like, I'm not going to be the best person for the job. I'm just not. It's not how my brain works. It's not how I see things. So I think to bring it back to the beginning of your question, which is what the heck is this business? MKW Creative Co. We are a brand design, social media marketing, and creative direction agency, and we work with brands to make them brag worthy. And for us, brag worthy means the type of business that you want to talk about unprompted. Like you had such a great experience with that product or service that you naturally want to tell everyone you know about it because you just feel seen, valued, and heard. So all of that is related, right? So we're thinking a lot about founder led. I work with a lot of women, like 95% women. My social media analytics is like 98% female. I come from a big family of girls. I'm fourth generation female entrepreneur in my family. So there's just like a lot of that energy in the mix. But I think, again, to put all of our clients in the same room with each other, I just know that they would get along because they have similar values. They're similar people, if that makes sense. So the niche is like the type of person and the visuals, not so much the industry. And I think, especially for creatives, yeah, that's great if you want to just niche yourself to the travel industry, but then you're designing for people's competitors of each other. Whereas now my value add is I can give Allie travel exclusivity. I can give Dental Hygiene Nation apparel exclusivity for hygiene brands. Like I don't take on candle projects, even if I'm not working on Hotel Lobby Candle actively, which I'm not. They have an in-house team now. I personally am not going to take on another candle brand because that's my baby. I helped that company for 5 years. They're crushing it. They just got a collab with Anthropology. Why would I then dilute my impact in that category by taking on and just doing candle branding? I just have a different approach to it than most, I think.
Well, I feel that you approach it from a very abundance perspective. You could work with another candle brand, but like you said, you've been able to grow that business from, I don't know if it was fully just concept. You designed it so well and we're a part of it, that, like you said, it could probably translate, but you're keeping open space for another concept to
That's
blossom.
that's the beauty of it is I've been doing this. Next year will be my 12th year in business. I still think of like the projects that I would love to get. Like I'd love to work with a chef. I'd love to work with a boutique hotel. I would love to do a jewelry brand. There's these kind of hallmarks or bucket listy type projects that I'm really interested in, but it has to be the right person alignment. I'm not so headstrong in saying I have to work with this type of brand this year. No, if it comes across my desk, cool. But I'm not going to force it so hard because I think that's the hard bit about creativity too and about business, especially when things are so unpredictable. Keeping those strong beliefs loosely held, it helps because it's like, ooh, I know who I am and I know what I can do, but I'm going to let that opportunity come into my orbit and not try to shoehorn myself into just to what? For the feather in the cap? No.
You're just such an inspiration. Everything that you've shared today is so aligned
I
and
just
just
love to chitty
speaks
chat,
to
girl.
you do. You yap so good.
A good
You
yapper.
yap so good. I want to be mindful of the time. So if
Uh-huh.
there's anything else from the heart and soul of the work that you do that you want to share, maybe more so about the lens that you are bringing to light in 2026, I would love to spend a little bit more time on that before we conclude.
I'm thinking a lot right now about the person who's in a creative job who's very scared of losing their job. I told this to my mom on the phone today, driving over here, was like, I'm so grateful I just committed to having my own business because there's something that weirdly, to most people, where that would feel like a risk, it feels so safe right now that I'm responsible for my income. I'm responsible for my workload. I'm responsible for my marketing. Like, I feel so much more autonomy over my future than I think someone who is beholden to a company. And I feel for people. Like I'm watching some of my best friends go through rounds and rounds of interviews or doing these weird cobbled together situations. And it's hard because I think a lot of young people too who went to college and spent a lot of money and are in a lot of debt over going to school, the job market's not what it was. And I think that there's a lot of fear right now. And I'd be curious to see how that energy, that pent up energy, can get rechanneled into creating and how we can, as a society, really realize and point out what's not working for us and then offer an alternative. Like, really start to rewrite the script. I think 2020 was a huge scramble because so many people are like, this is what working remote looks like now. But I'd love to see people really tackle burnout, to really tackle inequity, to really tackle injustice, to really start to tackle the corporate monopoly capitalism bullshit, over consumerism. Like I would really love to see a fresh take on those big problems. And so I'm really spending a lot of time thinking about that and about how in my public speaking and through my podcast and through my own thought leadership can start to have more of those conversations. And so my thesis and what I've been presenting on recently and I'm planning to present in a conference early next year is like this connection between thought leadership and aesthetic. So like how can you communicate, which kind of relates to what we talked about at the beginning, right? Communicate what you think, how you think about the world to a visual of some sort. And it's never a bad idea to like just buy the URL that is your name and put everything you've ever done or made or impacted in a company in one spot and just always have a resume. Because I think where we're evolving to is just like pure gig economy. Like the salary job maybe is out. I don't know, but I would really want to like help implore and empower people to step into their own thought leadership and their own achievements via personal brand. Via, you don't need to be an influencer. I'm not saying you need to be out here like hawking links, but can you contribute? Contribute to the conversation. Don't wait to be invited. Start contributing to the conversation.
I love all of that. I mean, I can just see you stepping into doing some type of like mentorship program specifically for the newer stage thought leader who is wanting
Mhm.
to use a personal brand to amplify their beliefs and their
Mhm.
unique lens.
I did a report to ASID this week and I pulled some stats, the job number stats, and they're saying in 2025, 1 million people were laid off from their job. Okay, these 1 million people are laid off. What are they doing right now? What are we do? What are we doing? What are we doing? And so if we're going to have another moment similar to COVID where all those businesses panicked and fired everyone and then everyone started their own thing, are we going to get another wave of entrepreneurship? Because entrepreneurship, big waves of entrepreneurship happen when A, people don't have another choice, or B, they finally have the mental space and the time to say, I'm going to finally do that idea I've always had. So 2026 could be a big year for us. I'm just like priming for that situation. For example, I had a discovery call the other day. The guy, he's opening a coffee shop in his hometown because he's a single dad with two sons. And I really just want something that's ours. I want to teach my boys like owning a business, blah, blah, blah. I was like, great. Are you getting like investor money? He's like, no, it's self-funded. I was like, what's your day job? He's like, I'm a recruiter for the NHL. And I was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like those kind of people that are like, I have the capital and here's my chance. Here's my opportunity because it's going to be all these business vacancies, commercial vacancies.
It's interesting that you were talking about the next wave because I've been sitting with that over the last couple weeks and I don't know exactly why. I've just felt this similar energy of the 5 year trajectory of what has amplified, what has changed in my life personally, but for so many people that I was connected to or that I met during that period in time.
Mm-hmm.
Just feels like we're not necessarily stepping backwards in a sense, which it puts us in holding patterns, but it's reminding us of where we've come from over the 5 years and what we need to do with that for the next five plus. That's the energy that I've been feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And that in COVID, the change was outside of our control. And this time it feels like the change is within our control. Like no one
Absolutely.
could have predicted that like the whole world was going to be shut down. So a lot of the decisions made 5 years ago were reactive and not proactive. And I think maybe we're coming into a season of people proactively being like, okay, this shook everything up. The chips fell where they may, but now I have a different plan for where I want to put my chips. And I think that that's very real.
Absolutely. Well, it leads back to that autonomy component that you were talking about in so many ways in this conversation so
Mhm.
far. But that actually reminds me of what you said. People aren't waiting for the permission anymore. They've already got the permission within themselves, and they're just going through the questions that they need to ask themselves in order to get to that moment of clarity to actually act on it and be
Mhm.
proactive. I think it's very exciting because then, from your perspective, and then even from my lens, being a podcaster, being in PR, and still feeling so passionate about that space, is there's even more advocacy driven brands and people that are stepping up to the
Yeah.
spotlight, which it makes our work even more fulfilling because it gives us opportunity to help them like for the next up levels that are in a way not their expertise, but they just need guidance. It makes it exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting because it's also, to me, it's a non-negotiable. I'm not interested in working with brands where I don't know where they stand on issues anymore. I'm not interested in referring out referral partners where I don't know where they stand. It's too important to me to risk that. I think, again, that comes from privilege and support and being able to stick your neck out. But I would much rather be the one that sticks my neck out than someone who can't afford to. And that's where I feel that I have a responsibility to my audience, my community to do so.
Amazing. Michelle, I loved this conversation so much. I feel the frequency of this conversation when what was talked about perfectly positions that energy and that purpose for so many people in the start of a new year. I think of it mentally clocking. When I clock the end
Mhm.
of the year and I refresh and restart in the new year, it's like, what's possible? And I think about all the
Mhm.
possibilities, and it just gets intoxicating when you think about it. And so,
Mhm. Mhm.
reflecting on this conversation, it definitely brings that excitement in a new way. And so, thank you so
Yay.
much for all of
Oh my
this. It
gosh,
was
thank you for
lovely.
facilitating. That was great. I'll do this anytime.